I mean, obviously we were expecting this kind of rain all week, but as the run kept working, we kept sticking to it. So I think the balls got really wet, the towels got really wet, so it was really hard to throw the ball. But our O-line played amazing, the best they've ever played. We had an extra O-lineman in there to help block with one of our tight ends out. They just did amazing. Opened the holes for me to get through, and I just did what I could.
So you prepared for it the whole week, and that's sort of the game plan you came in with?
I'm not sure if we planned for that many carries, but it's fun.
Yeah, you ran the ball a lot today. You beat up a little? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. I got the ice on, but, I'll be chilling. Yeah.
I got to be honest, we came out the way I thought we would. Got behind early, right? We had that miscue, that fumble. Changed the game a little bit, down 14. We fought back, right? Made some good plays on offense. Quarterback is a heck of a player. They got some, listen, they got dudes over there. But I couldn't be prouder for my guys. And listen, those are the games we got to win, and we'll get better from it, and we'll learn from it.
Yeah, I think we were riding high in the offseason. The first game against West Haven humbled us. I think that we really took the mentality of every game is a playoff game, and from then on, we just need to win out. So that's the biggest thing for us.
Let's go, family on three. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, John Patrick Bowley. And with me, as always, is the great Pete Paguaga. Peter, how are you?
Good. I think I've grown a couple of inches the last 6 weeks. It's been raining every week, and I just get soaked, so I'm like a plant. I feel like I've grown like 2 inches since the beginning of football season. Do I look taller?
That's a great analogy. Yeah, I mean, I wish. I'm still dredging out all my poor clothes. The dryer is like no moss. I've had to I've been wearing my ski gear already. I've my Helly Hansen jacket, no free ads, and pants. It's been brutal. It's been a brutal start to the season with all the rain and outs and everything. And last week was no exception.
Yeah, I've been wearing my REI gear, like you said, no free ads. That's paid for itself time and time again the first 6 weeks of this year. The only problem is it has one pocket. So the rain pants themselves have one pocket, so I have to put a bunch of stuff in my backpack or in my pants under the rain pants. And sometimes I can't get to certain things because they only have one pocket. It's very annoying. Pete Von Velakis on Greenwich was laughing at me on the sideline. I had my camera in my right hand, and I'm reaching over into my left pocket to get my phone out. But because I'm trying to film, but I'm trying to reach across, I couldn't do it because I got short arms. So I had to it was a whole thing. But one pocket in the rain pants is not very helpful.
I just make it stop, please. I don't care what it. I mean, I know it's getting colder out. It's getting a little colder out. We're at the midseason, Pete, already. I mean, can you believe that of the 2023 season? But, it is getting colder, but this rain is no moss, man. What happened to those nice, lukewarm October months or October days? It started to dip down at night. You get a little chilly. You're wearing your sweatshirt. It's great, but this rain has got to go, man. Got to go.
No, the rain's out of here. But guess what? Check the forecast. It's going to rain on Saturday.
Oh, jeez. Oh, goodness. It rained today in Hamden. So anyway, but welcome back to the Meat Grinder. We got a jam-packed show for you. We got the Midseason Report, which we'll do at the end here. Coming up a little bit, we got Mike Ellis from Fitch. We don't do a lot of ECC around here, but Ellis's team's had a big comeback win over NFA. They're playing Killingly, which is rebounded. So big game out there in the ECC land, and plenty going on here. But at the top of the show, we'd like to acknowledge just an awful story coming out of Windsor, where Elijah J. Mariano Rivera, great name, a young man who died a week ago Tuesday, after suffering an apparent seizure after practice up there in Windsor. And, it's still very fresh, and we don't know a whole lot about it other than, what just little news reports we have. We know what they're going to do. Windsor was on a bye week, and they're going to play their first game coming out on Friday, where I'm sure they're going to honor him. But just an awful story. And apparently he just had a seizure and collapsed, and they called 911, and they said, what do we do? And the 911 calls we're on our way. Sure enough, he died. So our our hearts go out to Windsor, his family, of course. As he just moved from Texas, they called him Big Texas. And just awful. And a lot of people around the state we saw give out their condolences, and just a horrible thing. And I don't know what else to say, Pete, but our hearts go out to Windsor.
Yeah, it's tragic. You never want to hear about, someone that young, dying. But, so a lot of the football teams in the state, try to rally around Windsor. This is obviously a very hard time for that program. So, you said your thoughts, to Coach Fleeting and, the Windsor football community. It's just a game on Friday. But I'm sure it'll be a nice for them to kind of have something to focus on to take them out, what's going on in the real world. Just really, 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 really sad.
Yeah, just another reminder that nothing in life is guaranteed except, stuff that's guaranteed. But your tomorrow is not guaranteed to you. So try and live your best life. I think that's the lesson you take out of this. So our hearts go out to them. And moving back into football, Pete, it was kind of another week of buys of the second big round. A lot of the FCIAC and SWC teams returned to action. The NVL took the week off. The ECC's returned. The CCC took a week off. So it's kind of weird. Everybody's coming back together this week for the most part. So we'll be back to regular order. Lots of big games coming up this weekend. But last week, let's just actually look at the top 10 because that's kind of where we start. There's not a lot of changes in the top 10. A lot of the games that happened kind of just reaffirm where we are at midseason. So we'll start at the bottom, which kind of ties into where you went on Saturday. Number 10 is Darien. They don't drop out. They only drop a spot. But they lost to Greenwich, Pete, 30-14 in the rain. It's one of those deals where I say showdown, showcase. It was kind of a showcase for Greenwich. Darien just not quite ready for prime time. What happened over there at Cardinal Stadium?
Darien, a handful of injuries, which is you never want to see that. But Greenwich right now is just the better team. The Blue Wave are taking steps in the right direction, but I just don't think they're there yet, like we said on the show last week. I'll tell you this about Greenwich, though. They got better each week. Rocco Grillo's getting better. It's great to see George Von Velakis back out there, returning. He left early in the Maloney game. Brandon August is just so much fun to watch. Caught a nice long touchdown late in the first half. And the defense is just lights out. Sebastian Parr even said after the game they have the best run defense in the state, and they definitely showed out on Saturday. Made 2 huge picks in the game, and that's a huge win. Anthony Morello said it after, like they hadn't beaten Darien at home since 2007.
Wow, really? Wow.
I was a junior in high school then.
I think
that's a long time ago.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think there was a game in 2008. It was actually at Darien, but that was like Darien's first big win because Greenwich was at the top of their game, 2007 champions, and then Darien, I think it was 2008 or 2009 around there, I want to say, where there was a big win there. But I can't believe it's been that long. But then Greenwich did have a tough spot, and Darien was so good for so long. That makes a lot of sense.
Greenwich snapped the overall losing streak to Darien last year at Darien.
That's right. At Darien. And
there were some great matchups between them. I mean, obviously in 2019, remember Greenwich went up real big. Darien came all the way back, led by Jackson Peters, and Greenwich had a chance late, and they spiked the ball on 4th down.
That's right. That's right.
There have been some close games between those two. So I think for Greenwich, getting over that hump, I think is very huge for them as they head to the second half of the season.
Yeah, Darien plays Fairfield Ludlow next, and Greenwich faces Trumbull, which had its hands full with Fairfield Ward before Rowan Johnson and Jack Hall decided to have a big game for them. 3 interceptions, not bad, including a pick 6 on a punt return. Actually, it was a fake punt. They had Trumbull, but so Trumbull, kind of trying to get back, and they're going to need to win that game. Or at least to get a good shot. But we'll look at those playoff standings a little bit. Number 9 is Bloomfield, coming off 2 weeks where they didn't play. They got a double bye, so good for them. They play Northwest Catholic. I think their next 3 opponents have only 2 wins between them. So that's life in the CCC Division IV is tough, as they say. So number 8 is Ansonia, another bye team. They're going right back home, coming off their bye, and they're undefeated. They're going to play Holy Cross, a game that was great. You were at that game last year, Holy Cross, but this time it might be a little different. Holy Cross, really got ripped through by Naugatuck a few weeks ago. I think it was week 2 or 3. And now they got to go to Jarvis and knock off the Chargers. I don't think anybody's beaten Ansonia at Jarvis Stadium except for Naugatuck in decades, it feels like. But so that's going to be a tough spot for them. We'll see what Marcus Campbell and the guys can do. Coming in at number 7 is Staples, which stayed put after a pretty gritty 29-22 victory over Wilton in the second of the 2 big FCIAC games on Saturday and the game I was at. And the star of the show, of course, Pete, was Caleb Smith and his offensive line. With the rain mucking up the passing game, Staples turned to the run, and Smith ran 30 times for 113 yards and accounted for 4 touchdowns, as Staples went up 14-0 and then had to rally late to knock off the Warriors, who were up 22-21 on a 30-yard field goal by Luke Ginsburg. But Wilton opted for the squib kick, gave Staples a short field, and those Wilton's defense never really let them bust loose on any big runs all day. Smith and Staples still managed to keep the sticks moving, and finally he hit Sam Petrosino for the short go-ahead touchdown pass and the 2-point conversion to put the Wreckers up 7. Staples' defense, which struggled a bit, came up big twice in the final 2 minutes. They stopped Wilton down inside the 10, and after the Warriors got the ball back at midfield, Max Marullo picked off their last gasp to hand Wilton its first loss of the season in the first of 3 consecutive massive matchups. Staples has now won 4 in a row since getting demolished in their opener versus West Haven, and here's Caleb Smith on the records now versus then.
Yeah, I think we were riding high in the offseason. We had a bunch of returners, more than we had in past years, so we thought, walk into the season with more of a high horse, I would say. And the first game against West Haven humbled us. They're a really good football team. They've done really well. But I think that we really took the mentality of every game is a playoff game. And from then on, we just need to win out. So that's the biggest thing for us.
Wilton's next opponent is on the road at Dunning Field, and they face number 6, New Canaan, which is coming off a bye week and has won 4 straight. Last time the Warriors played there, they beat NC a couple years ago, so we'll see Saturday at 2. Number 5 is Newtown, which ripped past New-Fairfield 41-6. They play Weston next. Not great. If you think Newtown's schedule isn't that great, it's not, but they did play St. Joe, and they beat them at the beginning of the year. They have beaten Trumbull, which, has its troubles, but it hasn't been terrible. And they play West Haven in a couple weeks, so giddy up. We'll see Newtown very soon. Number 4 is Maloney. Idle last week, coming off 2 consecutive shutouts. Now they got to go see if they can extend that streak against New Britain. They haven't got a lot of points since they lost to Greenwich, right? 30-28 in week 3. Number 3 is Cheshire, which Matt Jeffrey apparently has not been playing a lot the last few weeks. Maybe banged up a little bit in the 14-0 victory over Fifth and Prep, but they haven't needed him. They played Amity and ripped through them. And then Hamden, which was coming off that big West Haven guy. I thought Hamden competed well against Hamden, but I guess J.J. Gibson didn't play the quarterback. They kept him out, and Hamden just had no answers. 41-0 Rams with a first-place vote looking good there at number 3. Number 2 is West Haven. Idle, they face North Haven. Thankfully for them, they face them at home. We'll see now with North Haven can come all the way back and get into the voters' good graces. And obviously, number 1, Pete, Greenwich. You saw them. People are still thinking whether they should vote West Haven or Greenwich, but maybe Cheshire in there too. It's very, very interesting so far.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of rumblings about people voting for West Haven 1, yet no one is voting for West Haven 1. So I don't know what to tell. I mean, we get attacked because, we put our faces into our ballots and we say who we vote for. They think it's our vote.
They think it's our. We're
selecting. There's 26 people that vote in this poll. There are 26 people that have a say in how this poll is put together. It's a mathematical formula. If you read the poll, you'll understand how it works. It's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Try to get all the voters from around the state, but no matter how many times I say that, you all think I'm gonna be picking teams. Yeah.
Trust me, if my ballot mattered, Shelton's in the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. If my ballot mattered, Shelton would be in the top 10. Yeah.
So would Windsor. Ansonia would not. But, just the collected thing. It's a mathematical formula. It's pretty crazy.
Who's to say, Pete, that we know everything? Well, yes, we have a podcast.
I mean, we don't say that we know everything. We're just the only ones who put in the time to host a podcast.
Yeah.
It's not. I teach my freshman intro students how to record a podcast, so we just do it. So yes, we do know what we're talking about, but obviously, we are not the end all be all.
So that was the top 10 poll. I mean, again, not much of a change, just the Darien flipping with Bloomfield. Lots to play here right now, Pete. And just looking around some of the other games that happened last week, out of the top 10, you sung Granby Canton's praises all last week, and Rockville was sitting over there beating up on Cromwell, Portland, and they're going, "Hey, Pete, why didn't you come to our game? What about us?" Well, the good news was we were going to get to see them soon because their game from week one, like a lot of week one games, apparently, which I didn't know about because they weren't showing up on CIAC's schedule because the CIAC is apparently they're putting together a whole new look, but a lot of these schedules weren't lining up for a long time, which kind of caused some headaches. But we did know that Granby Canton was playing host to Rockville in a continuation of a game that Rockville led 7-0 late in the first half before it got postponed. Not once, not twice, but 3 times by not just rain, but by no refs. And so Rockville came up there mad. They thought they were going to go play Monday or Sunday. Nope. Rockville moved on. They played Valley, and the Pequot told Rockville, well, too bad. You're going to have to play week 6. They came out, Pete, fired up. They were talking about it. They took our bye week. They took our best player, Nate Palmer, got hurt. And not that was Granby's fault or anything, but he got hurt in that game. We had to come back here. We lose our bye week. We played Cromwell last week. We're playing SMSA, which is really good this week. What would they do to come out? Well, they came out with a team possessed. On the first play in 5 weeks, Brady Ramsdell hits Lexington Hunter down inside the 10. And before I could even get my camera ready, I didn't even see it happen. I barely saw that happen. I ran down there. Amir Knighton, your boy, scored a second touchdown of the game, and Rockville is up 14-0. Granby punt, more Knighton, more Ramsdell. Next thing you know, Knighton's in the end zone on a 3-yard touchdown run, 20-0. And then one of my new favorite players, Jonathan Kasamba, Pete, junior defensive lineman, number 6 and 7, drops Granby Canton's quarterback not once, but twice to send a little message before the half. And then in the third quarter, Pete, a loose ball in the end zone, and there's my guy, Kasaba, jumping all over it for his first career touchdown. Fired up. It's 27-0, and that was early in the third quarter. That was pretty much it. Granby just had no gas, just no life after that. And Knighton added another touchdown run, and that was it. 34-0. Rockville undefeated, now the darlings, Pete, of the Pequot lead. And here's Kasamba, who is all amped up about his first touchdown and gives a little preview about what's to come.
During practice, coach's main thing from the beginning of the week was focused anger. Because last year, we had a game against Stafford. They blew us out the year before. We came in angry, but I feel like it wasn't the right anger. That anger kind of messed us up. So this week, we put the anger in the right spots with the physicality, the quickness, and we saw how that turned out.
How anxious were you guys to play? You guys were mad about not finishing last time, right?
Yeah, we were pretty mad. Because the first time, we really wanted to finish. We had a long time. Nate gets injured. It really hurts bad. Second time, we come at 10 in the morning. We got to go home. I went to my best friend's house for a little bit, and then came back. Then we got to go home again because of the weather. Now we've kind of got to finish it. We're all final round, and that was it.
Just quickly, tell me how great it was getting that fumble.
So, I see the bad snap. I'm stunning in. and then I see the ball on the ground, and then I grab it, and the other dude's trying to tuck it, so I just put the ball in my stomach, and I'm like, nah, and then I look at the ref, I'm like, that's 6, right? He puts his hands up, I'm like, oh my God, since I thought I was going to wait my senior year to score a touchdown, that's what the OC kept saying, but I had the ball in my hands, I was like, man, it's a great moment, man.
So your first touchdown?
Yeah, my first touchdown. Hey, don't be surprised if you see another one.
Yo, do the hype.
So this guy, Javon, he goes, bro thinks he's a TD merchant now. And then Kasamba responds, he goes, I have more touchdowns than you.
He's great. He's really good, Pete. And, that I was impressed. Knighton looks good. Again, they lost Palmer. They were really kind of ticked off about that. They're ticked off about playing there. They're ticked about a lot of things. And what did Kasamba say? Focused anger. That's what Eric Knickerbocker said. And Eric Knickerbocker was glad to see me. It was the last time I saw him. They lost that Stafford game all the way up there, and they got obliterated in a game. They were a playoff team that year too. And
they were a finalist that year.
They went to the final, which is crazy. So it was good to see them. I was all fired up to see Aaron Canton and Eric Shortle. I said, "Look, man, I'm sorry. Every time I go up here, you guys lose. I'm like a kiss of death. I went there last year at Cromwell and lost." So, but it was all good. But that was a fascinating game of the Pequot. And let's move over a little bit to the SWC. Pete, one of the more intriguing games was Notre Dame-Fairfield, undefeated, playing a Brookfield team that's kind of on the rise here. Sure, they lost to Pomprog, but they did knock off Barlow before the bye week. So, what was Brookfield going to bring in? And but what did Notre Dame-Fairfield have? Apparently, they lost their best guy, but that was not enough to deter them.
No, they came out hot. Bryson Razor is a really, really good, just dual threat quarterback for the Lancers. Obviously, Antoine Davis stepped up running the ball. I think he rushed for like 160 yards, had a long touchdown run. But really, the guy who really had the big game for the Lancers was Jose De Jesus. He had like 2 touchdown catches that put him up 14-0. And he came down with the interception late when Brookfield was trying to make a push. Now, I will say this. There was a play at the end of the game, Notre Dame-Fairfield, Brookfield. Brookfield is down only by a score, 4th down. They run a halfback option pass. Michael Walters rolls out, throws a pass. I'm at the back. The kid makes the catch, sort of looks like he makes the catch. Referee rules that he dropped it. The referee's right there. Brookfield is crushed. They are not happy. They thought the kid caught the ball. They were talking about how they have photos saying that, we have 3 photos of him catching the ball. And in my head, I'm like, video tells all, my friends. Yeah, and I did. I went back and I looked back and you could see the ball. Ball comes through, hits the turf. Great call by the referee in that game. Because it looked clear as day that the kid caught it. And if he called it, I wouldn't have blinked. But yeah, the ball hit the turf. Notre Dame got the ball back and was able to run out the clock. Let me say this about the Lancers. This is the first time they're 5-0 in a very, very, very long time. One of the kids reached out to us and asked us when was the last time that it happened. And I was able to go back, I think, all the way to 2002. And I could not find it. It's the last time they weren't 5-0.
They weren't 5-0 in 2002, huh? That was one of the
in
best
2002. Games. They were on a 9-game win streak after they lost their first game.
Wow.
So
shout out Jeff.
But yeah, yes, I found that looking in our archives and found when they lost. I forgot who they lost to, but he had a really good quote in there. And I was like, I know Jeff. But yeah, the Lancers are legit, and I think that they are a team that we're really going to have to watch in Class S. And obviously, Ansonia and Bloomfield are down there. But Notre Dame-Fairfield's got guys. Now, let's not totally forget here. 2 years ago, a lot of these seniors were sophomore starters on Notre Dame-Fairfield. And they went to Cromwell, Portland. And they gave the eventual Class S champions their best game that season, losing 29-20 at Pearson Park with, I think, 16 kids dressed. A lot of these kids are still here. This Notre Dame team is a legit threat in Class S.
Looks like it. That was a pretty solid win. Apparently Depth's an issue, though. They got tired late in that game, didn't they?
Yeah, just like you said in the Pick'ems pod, the depth is an issue, and they kind of they slowed down a little bit. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to point in the other direction. Brookfield is not an S team. Brookfield's got bodies.
Yeah.
If they're playing S teams, I think they're gonna be fine. Go down the rest of the way, right? They got Barlow, which is a double S school. They got Masuk, which I believe is a double M or an M.
Double
right?
M.
But yeah, double M. Benell's an M. Stratford, I think, is an M. I think they're playing one quote unquote S school the rest of the way. So if they can get into the playoffs and they start playing schools their own size, I think they're going to be fine. But that depth is definitely an issue.
Right. And that's what works against them in these schedules. So far, so good, though, for Coach John Johnson and the Lancers. Moving over a little bit, the game I went to on Friday night, the Masuk continues to hang on and win. We talk a lot about some of the great players, but how about all the freshman quarterbacks? We brought this up, I think, a few weeks ago, but how about all the freshman quarterbacks that are playing out there? I mean, Danbury has a freshman quarterback. Morgan, Morgan, Old Saybrook, Westbrook, right? They got Powell. Yep. He's taken over there because of injury. And over at Masuk, how about Aaron Champagne? Now, you talked about him when you saw him first coming out against Bloomfield. They asked him basically, please help us win this game that we gave up 24 consecutive points on. It wasn't really his fault, but here he is, gets thrown in there because the quarterback got hurt. That'd be Rob Klein, and he's out until he won't be able to throw until at least Thanksgiving, maybe even longer. So let's throw this freshman in here. And, Bunnell, they didn't really need him to throw. They just, because it was raining and they just kind of pounded the ball. But, against Barlow, a defending Class SS champion, sure, they don't have Shaban, but still a very dangerous team. And from the outset, at a packed Benedict Field, it was nice to see the Masuk Red Army out. Very nice. But at packed Benedict Field, they hadn't beaten Masuk since 1991. They'd been close. 2 years ago, they were close, if you recall, with Shaban on the team. Interim coach Brian Halpin figured with his freshman quarterback, that Champagne, he figured, I don't know how much in practice he maybe wasn't great, but he just figured, what the heck, I'm going to let her rip. And he let her rip. Down 7-0 after a bad punt snap and a touchdown. Champagne uncorks his beauty on 4th and short to Max Viglione down the left sideline, and we are off. He completed 15 of 27 passes, threw for 326 yards. None of them were TDs, but he did run for a touchdown. But a lot of those big, long passes set up his older brother, senior Jason Champagne, who ended up with 6 touchdowns in the overwhelming, 49-14 victory over Barlow, which they're going to be fine in Class SS, but it's all about surviving, and we'll look at that in a second in Class MM. Masuk, not pretty, got a freshman quarterback. They got one of the best players in the state in Jason Champagne. They're stitched together a little bit. They got a good defense, but they are surviving. And this is, if you're keeping score here, this is week 15 without head coach Steve Christie and assistant coach Eric Giordano. I talked to a bunch of people there. Everyone's just very upset by the whole situation. And here's Jason Champagne talking about why they don't wear their decals on their helmets, because it's a little bit of a solidarity until they can get their coaches back.
Yeah, I mean, we're not totally Masuk yet, no decals yet. Not until Coach Eric Giordano and Coach Christie are back in at least their jobs. Coach Giordano being a teacher and Coach Christie being our head coach. Obviously, I can't say it enough how much we love our coaches now, but again, we're not Masuk yet. We need our coaches.
So apparently, it sounds like Eric Giordano is going to be back in school. He's been out of school for the last 100 and something days. So it sounds like he's back in school, but neither of them are on the football team. This is dragging out. We are going into the second half of the season. I certainly hope this has a resolution soon, because it's been kind of ridiculous with Masuk. Anyway, so but good for them so far. They've only had the one loss to Bloomfield, and they are cruising right now.
Jason Champagne's only got 400 yards, but he's got 13 touchdowns though.
That's amazing. That's wild for someone you think had a lot more than that. 400.
Yeah, I mean, Rowan Johnston and Soren Reef already have 1,000 yards.
Wow. Masuk is Yeah, he's excellent. They're all short yardage touchdown runs. I mean, they got him close. The receivers did all the work. His brother did all the work. He knew what he had. Again, it was just a matter of getting. He's only 14 years old, which is amazing in and of itself. But here he is on his brother and what he's meant.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been watching him since he was young. In 7th and 8th grade, I could see in him that he could do very well at Masuk. And I mean, this game has to have solidified that he's a good quarterback.
In the beginning of the game, I was definitely nervous. There were a few mistakes, but after that, after the first couple drives, we locked in. And we definitely ran up the score. O-line, I love the O-line. I love Jason too. I love having the protection in the backfield.
And then we heard a little bit from Aaron Champagne, the Champagne brothers, and then Masuk's defense, excellent. So they're in decent shape. Again, it's a slog, Pete, in Class Double M. Moving over to the FCIAC a little bit, Danbury and Norwalk, struggling a little bit, both teams this year, but they played a pretty competitive game on Friday night. And it was so competitive, they decided when they went to overtime, the referees, that they were going to play with college rules. We just dropped the story about this. Danbury and Norwalk, 17-17 going at the end of regulation. They go out to set up the overtime. And in high school overtime, mandated by the CI, now you can do different rules, but in high school, you must start at the 10-yard line. They put this rule in place in 2007. They didn't have overtime mandated until then. Some leagues did, but you weren't mandated by the CIAC. The CIAC made it a rule that you had to do overtime. It's been in place for, 17 years? And, so a long, long time. And they went out. I mean, I don't know what the refs were thinking, but according to our story, Mike Forget was like, wait a second, we got to be at the 10-yard line. They said, no, coach, we're going to 25. Danbury goes to 25. At that point, Augie Thierry said he was just kind of going with the flow. And, it didn't really hurt anybody, I guess, to play a college overtime. But, Pete, how do you not know that?
So, it's basically the overtime is the same. It's just 15 yards closer, right? That's a college overtime. I mean, they rotate. It's the 4 downs, the whole thing, right? I just am mind blown. Look, we sit here. I don't like criticizing referees. They have a hard enough job as it is, and they get criticized by a lot of people throughout 100%. The entire game.
Yep.
And,
yes.
We sat here after the Darien McMahon game going over that catch. That was a blatant incomplete pass by the rule. But we sat here and we said, look, that's a hard call. That is not an easy call to make. You can't get mad at a referee for missing a call like that. This is a massive, massive mistake. This isn't we didn't see he stepped out of bounds or we didn't see that the elbow was down or we didn't see maybe the play clock didn't line. No, this is just a blatant mistake. And it's bad. It's bad for all involved. It's bad for any, look, Mike Forget said that he tried to tell them that it was from the 10 and they told him he was wrong. Who's that on? Look, Dave Schultz is a super guy and very helpful. He didn't even know the game went to overtime. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, look, it's 10 yards for a reason. They are high school kids. We don't play 15-minute quarters. There are rules in place that are different between high school and adult men in college and the pros. We have to know, if you're going to be a referee, you have to know the rules for something like this. It's an absolute drop of a ball.
It was bad, but here's the saving grace. They both played it they both played the same rules.
If I'm Norwalk, what's the worst that you do? You protest the game. You have them start at the 10-yard line. Anything could happen.
Yeah. I mean, if this was like...
Anything could happen if you're 15 yards closer.
I hesitate to say this. But if this was Greenwich Darien, the game you were at, it would have been a lot bigger deal. But that turns around. Then you're like, well, wait a minute. Then if it's a big deal for them, it should be a big deal for these schools, and it is. So, but at least they can say, and even Forget Mike Forget was not happy. But they did blow a 17-0 lead. He acknowledges that. He also acknowledges the game shouldn't have gone overtime. So, and they did play the same. But he's not.
But it
wrong.
does.
He's
but it
wrong.
still happened. Yes, everything turned out fine. But it should not have ever gotten to that point.
No.
We can't turn around and say, "Well, we dropped the ball on it, but it's okay." No, it's not okay.
No, you're right. It's not okay.
There are rules in place for a reason, and they dropped the ball on. I don't understand how you don't know the rules. Look. We even talked about it. Is this a lack of referee issue that we've seen around the state where games are getting moved because we don't have enough referees? Are these inexperienced referees? According to the FCIAC board, this was not a group of inexperienced referees. That is not what they said. They said it was a group of varsity officials who made a mistake, and that's fine. It's a mistake. But this is a mistake that cannot happen.
Ball starts at the 10-yard line. And here's the thing that happened once upon a time. When the rule was first placed, I was at Pomprog versus Stratford. Maybe Chuck Drury or Dwayne Sheridan can confirm this, but I remember they went to overtime, and the referees set it up at 10. Pomprog won the toss. They elected to go second, so Stratford went first. Pomprog went second. They both scored. Then we went to second overtime. The referees gave Stratford the ball first in the second overtime. You're supposed to alternate. So Pomprog was, by winning the coin toss, basically got an unfair advantage because they got the ball again. They got the ball second again. They didn't have to, they didn't have, I don't think they played, I don't remember if it was a field goal or not, but that by going second, you put the pressures on the other team to do something. They got to put the pressure back on you. But then Stratford didn't score. Pomprog scored. That was it. Guess what? Stratford finished 8-2, missed the playoffs that year. Ask Tory Mack about that. Oh my God, that was a massive screw up. And I kept asking, why did Pomprog go again? That made no sense. But score stood. That was it. Pomprog went on. I think they went on. They might have gone to the state playoffs. But Stratford got kept out at 8-2. Because they lost Bunnell at the end of the year, and that was out. That was not enough for class. I believe it was class SS. That was
8-2 now. 8-2 all but locks you up a home game in the playoffs now. So
yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap up the recap by doing a few shout outs here. Quick, Pete. I'm gonna start off. Shout out to Chris Bellantoni of Fairfield Ludlow, 20 of 33 for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 47 yards and a touchdown on 7 carries. As Ludlow amassed almost 700 yards of total offense, 53-44 over Ridgefield. Oh, my goodness. Where was that against Decatur guys? Jeez. But, hey, good job by them. They back on the Fairfield Ludlow, back on the men. Pete, who's your shout? We got a shout out.
I'm going to give a shout out to Evan Russo of Cheshire. The senior D lineman had 5.5 sacks in Cheshire's 41-0 win over Hamden. There have been 9 guys in state history that have either had 5.5 or more sacks in a game. He is now the 10th. Welcome to an exclusive club, Evan.
Yeah, good job by him. I'm going to give another shout out to Ronan McNamara of East Lyme, who threw 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes, one to Tommy Matlock, and with just seconds to go, I think about 10 seconds left, to Nick Petrini, and a come-from-behind 28-27 victory over New London. Of course, the final margin was Finn Bruno's extra point. Good job by East Lyme. Pete, you got another one?
I do. I'm going to give the shout-out to Shelton quarterback Michael Kinnick. He has been starting for 3 years at Shelton, right? I mean, that's an amazing thing in itself to start as a sophomore anywhere. And he has had a very successful career. He got his first rushing touchdown of his career on Friday against Fairfield Prep. I think it came on I'm pulling up the box score now. It came on an 18-yard run. I think he even faked out Coach DeFelice on the move, but Kinnick got his first touchdown. Really funny interview on our Instagram page where he talked about it. But congrats to him. It's not as bad as Peyton Manning, when it took Peyton Manning 6 years to get one, and he had that crazy bootleg. Kinnick's a little faster than that, but it's nice to see him get in the end zone with a rush for the first time in his career. Who do you got, Sean?
I got another shout out for Jermaine Shepard of Platt Tech, 306 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns on 21 carries, 62-29 victory over East Haven. At halftime, he had 276 yards, and each of his 4 touchdowns and 3 of his 4 conversions at halftime. So, holy moly. Platt Tech with a big win.
Yeah. Pete. All right, I got one more. I got Brian McLean from Derby. Derby's got 2 wins this season.
Attaboy.
McLean has been a big reason why in both of them. And in this 56-22 win over St. Paul, he rushed for 5 touchdowns. And by the way, if his name sounds familiar, it is because he is one of the best sprinters in the state, one of the best track and field athletes as well. Derby is 2-3. I love that.
All right. My last shout out is going to go to Adonis Fine of Fitch, who threw a touchdown pass on an option play and returned a punt for a touchdown as Fitch came from behind to defeat Norwich Free Academy 34-28, going into a big showdown, ECC Division I showdown versus Killingly. And speaking of Fitch, let's bring our first guest on, Fitch coach Mike Ellis. Right. Joining us on the show is the head coach of the Fitch Falcons, Mike Ellis. You know, I jumped right into this because we were just off. We weren't recording, and Mike jumped on, and we start to reminisce, as we often do with guests. And Mike's talking about when Mike Emery was the head coach at Fitch, they were number 1 in 2000, and I completely forgot about that. Derek Lewis from West Haven's talking about, wishing me a happy birthday, and he's telling me about I covered him, and I'm reminiscing about the Shelton game they lost with Orlovsky, and I'm like, yeah, Shelton went on to win. They were number 1 that year, and then the Shelton coach comes on, and he goes, no, they weren't. And I'm like, wait, who? What? Wait, Fitch? Sure enough. Coach, thanks for joining us. And then he's like,
not a problem, Sean.
He's talking about the next year. So who did the Fitch win in? Who did they beat in 2000? Somebody good.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think back to that point in time in 2000. I don't remember who they beat in 2000. What happens? I remember who they lost to in 2001. That's the game that I remember. Is the Notre Dame of West Haven, and how it put Fitch into a they're in that traditional double wing, and then all of a sudden they had to try to spread out and throw the ball, and they just couldn't do it. That was not their style at that point. That point in time. But it was they had won it in 99, won it in 2000. They were going for their third in 2001, and that was their first time back since they won the first state championship ever in 1976 when they beat Trumbull in the snow up at I believe it was in Middletown, and then they lost in 79 to Newington up at Alumni Stadium at UConn. So I mean, that was a real good run for Emery there that he had late 1990s and early 2000s.
You were like talking about that day that Notre Dame beat them. Yeah, and that was at Southern Connecticut State. That was 2001. That was my second year as a professional, it was like you said, it was like 75 degrees out. People were wearing shorts. I remember Matt DeMeo, Coach George DeMeo's son, in the end zone wearing shorts. And I remember up in the being in the coach. I watched that game from the press box like an idiot.
Yeah.
But that was an all-time. Mike Penta. I believe. Sponheimer's kid was on. John Sponheimer. Mm-hmm. John Sponheimer's kid was on that team. Just a lot of great players on that team.
Oh, absolutely. It had a beautiful day, and that's in that is ingrained in my head that day. Just how. Number one, that they lost, but number two, the weather in December. I mean, you just don't get that. I remember being at state championship games where people are in sleeping bags and they got blankets wrapped around them, and heck, we're in t-shirt and shorts in the bleachers. There it was a nice day.
Ask Tanner Grove about the time he played Matakevich at St. Joe in 2009. Yeah. Oh, jeez, I was one of the worst weather games I've ever been in. But anyway. 20 years later, let's more than that. Let's talk about Fitch football. Coach, you've been there we say eight seasons now. After coaching at Waterford for a while, you take over your dad's program. Your dad been long gone, but he'd been long retired. But you take over that. I mean, was that like a no-brainer for you when that job came open? You figure, what the heck, I'm gonna.
You know what was interesting about that job is that I had just at Waterford, I was like, we had a couple of 500 seasons there in a row at the end, and I just felt that there had to be a change. It wasn't going the way that I wanted it to go, and so I said, you know what, I'm all done, and I really wasn't planning on coming coaching. And all of a sudden, as soon as I gave up the Waterford job, that afternoon, I get a call from Mark Romano at Fitch going, what about this job? And I really hesitated at first because I was like, I mean, do I want to get right back into it? Do I want to try to do this? But after a while, I just felt that, you know what? I grew up on the sidelines at Fitch. I can remember being at games, 6 years old, 7 years old, all the way through. The first time I missed Fitch games when I went to play high school myself, over at Stonington High, and so I just felt that, you know what, it's to give it a shot. And I had no idea, but we've been pretty successful, and I've been happy. I got a great staff there. They told me to tell you they are friends of the program. I guess that's a phrase that we've got, so they made sure to let me know about that.
Oh, they're fired up. You're coming on, huh?
Yeah,
I love that.
They are. Now, they've also told me to be very careful because normally the coaches that come on, they lose that week. So when I got the text from you, Sean, I immediately texted Jordan. I said, Jordan, this is a trap, isn't it? And he goes, no, coach, it's okay. Go ahead on, talk to him. You'll be fine. So...
Oh, my
Coach,
God. We've had that conversation.
I didn't want to bring it up. We brought it up.
Yeah.
Pete said, every guy we've had on is lost.
Yeah.
Do you think Mike is caught on yet? I go, he took his time getting back to me on Sunday. So I don't know.
No, my friends of the program, though, assured me that it would be okay.
All right.
Oh, that makes my heart so full. Thank you. That was friend of the. Oh, I am so. That was hysterical. Oh, man.
Hey, Coach, your guys, deserve a little pump up after getting down big. I mean, I don't know what it was. Was it homecoming for them? And a Saturday afternoon. I mean, usually you guys aren't that bad at Saturdays, but something had to wake you up. And I guess I read Mike DeMoro's story, and I guess it was like a late hit out of bounds or something on Adonis that kind of really juiced him up and got him going there. But tell me about that game against NFA last week.
Yeah, so we came out and we knew, that NFA, they going up there and trying to win at NFA is always difficult. And they brought us up there for the homecoming game. And they had, I think Mike said in his article, over 1,800 people there at the game. And we have, over the past few years, not played particularly well on Saturdays. And that's, I kind of equate it to the kids where, hey, listen, why did the Red Sox all of a sudden start winning? Well, because they had the better team. It wasn't a curse, wasn't anything like that. They finally had speed, better players, things of that nature. The Saturdays, we just got to go up there and play. Now, I did not expect us to come out and start the game the way that it did. We know last year, Gage Hinckley, they put him at quarterback. They went to the empty, and they had a field day running against us. We couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
We ended up winning the game. Yeah. But they had a ton of yards of offense. So what do? Third play of the game, there goes Gage, bang, score right off the bat. They were controlling the line of scrimmage on us. They were pushing us around out there. We did get a score. They got up 14-0. We scored to make it 14-6, and then they scored another one right before the half to go up 21-6. Yeah, but you could see in the end of the second quarter how our kids were starting to figure it out and starting to hold the line a little bit better. So we kind of went in at halftime. We made some adjustments, took a look at what they were doing against certain formations. But then in the end, it really was, hey, listen, what do you want to do here? are we going to just lay down, or are we going to go out and we're going to fight and we're going to give it our all? And so they really came out in the second half. We squibbed the ball. We recovered the squib. We moved the ball right down the field. We stole. We forced them to go 3 and out, which was huge. And then they punt the ball, and Adonis brings it back for a touchdown. So now we've got it to 21, I forget, 21-14, 21-13, somewhere in there. Then we stop him again, and Adonis is running, and he gets pushed out of bounds. And at NFA in the home, because we are in the bleacher side,
right,
he slides right across the track and slams into the brick wall. And what that did is, luckily, he was not hurt. But all of a sudden, you saw, and Jordan Panucci, our defensive coordinator, really said this. He goes, it's just like if it was a family coach. You know, they fight with each other, but as soon as one guy got picked on, they banded together. And really, from that point on, all of a sudden, it was 21-6 with just under 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. And the third quarter ended up 26-21 us. We got it to 34-21, and then they scored at the end, but then we were able to run the clock out. And I give NFA a lot of credit, because they really had a real good game plan offensively and defensively against us. And it took our kids a little while to figure it out. But to win on a Saturday, to win up there in homecoming, you know, and NFA was a team that this was their first league game. They were 0-4 coming into the game, and you knew it was a must-win for them. You know, they needed to win that ball game. And again, I'm not happy the way that it started, but I give the kids a lot of credit for not quitting and finishing strong.
Yeah, you go in there, you come out of there, finish. I mean, so now you go from that, and now you got to go play, you know, the team that's kind of been the gold standard of the ECC the last few years, and that's that's Killingly, and they're a whole different other. You talk about tough running teams, that is their bread and butter. Just give me a little bit of, how do you guys match up? What do you guys, and not to give it all away, but what are you facing when you play them?
Well, I think when you face Killingly, Chad has done a great job up there. I've coached against Chad, for 20 years now, and he has a program that rebuilds every single year. He's got a very good weight room. The kids are strong. They're committed to the program, and he's very tough to beat. And he's been, we in 2015. We lost by, I think the final score was 13-7, something like that. We had the lead in the fourth quarter, and they brought the back out of the backfield, hit a tight end up for a touchdown to win the game. We go up there in 2019 to Killingly, and we end up losing by a score. We blow a coverage, same type of play. They score, win. And the thing that Chad is able to do is he's got that RPO to run people over, but he knows when to throw the ball. And especially last year, he knew when to throw the ball. They were good throwing the ball last year. And so he's kind of got the complete package. And the thing that, all of a sudden concerned me is I went up and watched them against Thames River on Friday night. Guess what? All the timing of their passing is on. Quarterback's on, receivers are on, their passing game looks good. We know we are going to get a whole load of Soren. We're probably going to get 45 to 50 carries worth of Soren on Friday night. But we also have to be aware of, of them popping that ball on us. So they pose a threat for us. And, it's the same type of thing. We've got to use our strengths, which is our speed, against them. But we also have to play a very physical ball game. I equate it to, I watched some of that Notre Dame USC game on Saturday night. And, what USC, fast, can score a ton. What did Notre Dame do? Just pounded them and pounded them and pounded them, controlled the clock, controlled the game, and USC has their first loss. And, when I look at Killingly and Fitch, that's the way it's been the last couple of years. We got the speed, but we haven't had the physicality. And that's got to be the difference on Friday night. The thing that gives me hope is that, we were physical against NFA in that second half. We were able to match them. We're early in the year in North Haven. we were not as good as them. They were more physical. They pushed us around. We were able to score some points, but we couldn't stop them. So we know what teams are going to do. The question is, are our kids going to rise to the challenge and go, hey, listen, it's time to get our shoulder pads into the thighs and start taking people down?
Yeah, was that North Haven game a really nice wake-up call for you guys? I mean, like you said, you guys couldn't stop them, but, at least you those are tough games to play, and the alliance matches you up with, like, tough teams. But I would think that you would welcome something like that, maybe give your kids a little taste of, like, what it means to be physical.
Well, the thing that we told the kids before the North Haven game is this, because they thought they were going to be pretty good this year, and they felt that they, had a shot to make the playoffs. And we said, all right, here's the state champion. This is what you need to do in order to beat or to play with the state champion. And, our kids didn't quit. They got the snot beat out of them all night long. And so after the game, what we kind of talked about was this. All right, what are we going to do? We just going to kind of pack it in? Or do you guys now understand what it takes to get to that level? And are you going to work hard enough in practice to try to get to that level? And so, we've won 2 games since then. We're inching there. But Friday night is another huge test for us. Are we ready to play at the level necessary to get into the playoffs and try to be successful in the playoffs? Or have we not learned our lesson? And Friday night's going to teach us a lot about that.
For you guys, the last couple of years, in terms of getting to the playoffs, has been, you always just seem to be on the outside looking in. Whether it's 7 wins, 8 wins, with some really good teams. Obviously, the playoff expansion, might, open up those opportunities. But when you have a team that wins 8 games, 7 games, and I mean, how do you look at your team and say, we didn't do enough, and then turn around and look at a team this year and say, it's right here, guys. Like, how do we, let's not mess up this opportunity that we have.
Yeah. And Pete, it's a great point that you make, because the last time we made the playoffs was 2017 when we were 10-0 and undefeated. In 2018, we go 7-3 and miss it by a game. In 2019, we go 6-4, miss it by a game. We skip the 2020 year. In 2021, we go 8-2, miss it by a game. 2022, we go 6-4, miss it by a game. And so it's interesting, because that's the discussion we had after practice today. Boys, Friday night, that's the one game. Here it is. Because the team that wins kind of controls their own destiny. The team that loses, now they're hoping for other things to happen that way. And if you look at Double M this year, we're 4-1 in 10th place right now. And there's a 4-1 team sitting behind us and the 3-1 team. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in that class, so we know we're in a dogfight.
You wouldn't know on it any other way, though, right? Class Double S.
Absolutely. Here, and that was the great thing about playing North Haven. The kids now understand this is what it is. This is what it's going to take. Now, are you going to raise yourself to that level? That's the question. But at least there is no doubt or question in their mind about what it takes. Now the question is, are you going to do what's necessary to get yourself there?
Why don't you tell me about some of your guys? Like lots of returning guys. We thought we had you kind of pegged as a team to watch, especially out there. Obviously Adonis Fine's been pretty good. Ben Perry, quarterback. Yeah. Give me who have been the guys for you?
Well, I think they all certainly they all play a part. If you simply take Saturday's game and you look at it from a skill position scenario, we had a 4th and 12 play in the third quarter, and Ben throws the ball up to Calvin McCoy for a 40-yard gain and a first down that gets us inside the 10. Calvin has made some huge catches this year. Ben, some big throws. Ben also ran for 91 yards and 20 carries out of the triple option. And it was not easy. He was getting pounded quite a bit, and he made a lot of good reads and some gutsy performance there. Both Adonis and our other back wing, Porter Carter, they complement each other. And Porter had a 40-yard touchdown run against NFA. He's the one that got it to 34 points. At fullback, we've got a freshman at Devin Cook. a sophomore, Sean Bussey, and a senior with Devin Edwards. And the three of them kind of share that spot because that spot gets a lot of punishment there, but they've done a real good job. And the thing that I can't, forget is that offensive line, because that offensive line, it's got Gianni Drab on it, who was an all-state player last year for us. And then Dylan Beebe, Brandon Wilson, and Ryan Obregon, who are also returning starters for us. TJ Miller is a split end who had a touchdown catch against NFA, a 60-yard play, and then Griffin Pollard is also part of that offensive line. Defensively, a lot of those guys play both ways. We are not a two platoon. We can't go two platoon, but Adonis and TJ are the corners. Bussey and Porter are the safeties. We've got Jesse Torella Hudson, who's one of the inside backers, along with Devin Edwards. We got a freshman, Bishop Gaskins, at the nose, who's a tough player. Thomas Frazier at the tackle. So we've got a lot of guys that have done pretty well, and really had a real good off season and prepared that way. And hopefully we can just keep it to the one loss. But like I said, Friday's a huge test for us. Huge test. Can we overcome that?
You mentioned a lot of guys, and that's a lot of familiar names if you're, a fan of high school football, especially if you follow football up in the ECC. I mean, that's 15 returning starters from a team that went 6-4. You talk about, hey, showing the team, this is what it takes. This is North Haven. This is what it takes. How many? I mean, I'm imagining all 15 of those kids who watched you not make the playoffs last year, watched you not make the playoffs the year before that. They have to be chomping at the bit here to, just get an opportunity to show what they can do at the state level.
Absolutely. And we, in the off season, I went and heard Tony Reno from Yale speak, and he talked about the brick sessions that he does with Yale. And so we used to do something like that, but not exactly. And so over the past couple of weeks, starting with the bye week, we have done the brick session with the kids. And on one of the smaller sides of the brick, what they have to write is they have to write their goal, personal goal, team goal. And all of a sudden, as these bricks keep being read, they call it the state chip. They need to win the state chip and the championship. And so I stopped him at one point and I said, do you understand what that means? You understand that North Haven stands in your way again? Yeah, coach, we do. Now, again, I tell him, all right, that's great. Talk is cheap, though. Are you going to walk the walk with it? So Pete, I do think they're chomping at the bit for it. I do think they understand it. They understand what they have to face. But now the question is, are they going to day by day put the work in that's necessary to get themselves to that point? Today was a real good day for us. High school kids, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring that way. But they have a sense. And like I said, it's on their plate. What are you going to do? Are you going to take it, or are we going to be that team that's one game away again?
I mean, you don't play a lot of teams like a North Haven, though. I mean, how do you like the setup? Given getting a little more out of conference, get out. I know the ECC's been kind of like, it's been tough. They almost broke apart like 6 or 7 years ago because nobody wanted to play each other and everything like that. And they didn't want to play the NFAs, the Fitches, and the New Londons and stuff like that. So, but Killingly's been able to do very well at the state level. And I mean, is it a matter of just getting more opportunities to play a lot more teams that are at high level? And is do you like that challenge?
No, I do like the challenge. I mean, we've had to travel to Wilton. We've had to travel to Bunnell. We've had to travel to Xavier. We had Notre Dame West Haven come to us. We beat them one year. We lost to them the other year. We had to go to Fairfield Prep. And here's the thing, right? that I try to tell the kids is that these are the teams you have to be able to play with. If you can't play with these teams, you don't belong there. And, because you're not going to do anything when you get there. And so, it's tough, but it's also a great challenge for us. like what we're hoping this year is the North Haven was the wake-up call that we needed to get us to be able to finish this season strong. When we played Fairfield Prep 2 years ago and we went down there, we're going in, we know we run out with our travel squad, 35 guys, and then here come the 120 from Fairfield Prep on the other sideline. We end up losing the game, but what happens after that, we won every game after that. So we're able to use that as a springboard for us. I think it's good. It's good for the state, and I think it's nice for us because you get to play these teams that if you really belong, you need to beat in order to be there. And that's the way it should be.
Taking a look at the rest of the schedule, yes, Killing, and they got Hill House, which is on a roll, little roll. Woodstock Academy's been, but the rest of the schedule's not pretty bad. East Lyme had a big win the other night, and Ledyard had a big win. A lot of these teams are starting to, second half of the season's, coach, they're pretty tough.
No, they are. I mean, we went and saw Hill House play Guilford, and they've got a real quick back. They've got a big line. They've got an H-back tight end who's just a dude out there. So we know we've got our hands full there. And like you said, Woodstock all of a sudden has won a couple of games. East Lyme, a big win over New London right at the end. And now Ledyard going to the single wing. And, thanks, Coach Sagnella, for talking to Saricchio over at Ledyard, giving him that. But now we've got to face that on Thanksgiving Day again. So it's not going to be easy. But again, it's the survival of the fittest. This is what you have to do, and you have to play through it. And you look at some of these other teams at Double M. You look at North Haven. You look at Cheshire. They've got tough schedules too coming down the track. So it's real simple. You got to find a way to win. That's all.
Yeah. Bring your lunch pail, Groton. When you go to Groton, you got to bring your lunch pail, man. That is for sure. I mean, that is a blue collar, like military, like base town, right? Groton with a sub base there.
Yes.
Those type of kids,
it.
Right? Yeah, that's amazing. And there's tons of guys. I mean, how many BBs have been in the program? Oh my goodness.
Well, this is our third one, and it's been, I think that I've had a BB either every year or almost every year that I've coached there. So we're finishing with Dylan this year, but it's been a nice run with the BB boys. There's no question about it. Yeah. They've been very good for us.
They've all been very good. Yeah, all of them I've been on our radar for years now. But Coach, so far so good. A good comeback win. You're up against it this week. Obviously, that is at Killingly, up in the belly of the beast. There, that's never. I saw a crowd. They packed that place.
They really have a good following, and it's almost like a small college atmosphere when you go up there. They got the tunnel and the smoke and the cannon. The band. They got the whole thing going, and they've done a real nice job. I mean, Chad's done a nice job. That school has done a nice job. They put a brand new turf field in. It's a nice place to go. But as you said, Sean, it is a tough place to win. There's no question about it.
Well, maybe you guys have, you've taken your licks, and maybe you guys are going to be ready this time. We'll see. But, Coach, thanks for joining us. But, Pete, unless you got something else for us.
No, all good, Coach. Thank you so much for jumping on. I know you guys are busy. So, tell the other friends of the program, thank you for allowing us to have you for a couple of minutes to jump on. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. And we hope to break this podcast curse going on. That's our hope.
Yeah, me too. Because if you know,
well, now that this is public, no one's coming on.
Yeah, you guys are not going to have anyone. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I got busy. My wife wants to go apple picking, so can't talk football. Sorry, I don't want to. Anyway, all right, Coach. Thanks a lot. Good luck. Give them hell. We'll see you down the road. You guys will be in it. So
all right, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
So, Pete, that was Mike Ellis from Fitch. Big game against Killingly this week as we head in to the second half of the season. And you know what that means. It is the Midseason Report. Now it is time to start getting a little first look at the CIAC playoff points. Most teams now have all played 5 games. At least you have a few 6 games in there. Here's how this really works, okay? This is the short version. I've tried 100 different ways. Here's how this works. You get 100 points for defeating a team. And every time that team that you beat picks up a win, you get 10 extra points. So if a team goes 5-5, you get 50 extra points. That's 5 times 10. Then you also have, if you're a small school playing a large school, you get 30 extra points if it's 2 classes or higher, and you get 10 points if it's 1 class or more. So it's kind of convoluted, but in this instance, double S and S, you would get 30 extra points by playing and beating a double L and L school, and you would get an additional 10 points if you beat an M or double M. If M double M, if you play and beat an L double L, then you'll get 10 extra points. It's really confusing, but that adds a little to it. Now, they do have it reversed where you get 90 points and all that stuff, but a lot of these teams don't play out of league games, so let's just forget about that for a minute. Just the main thing to remember is you get 100 points for a win and then 10 points for every victory your opponent gets, and then you have other modifiers. And the top 8 averages, so you take your total points, and then they average it, and that average, the top 8 averages in your class go to the state playoffs. It's convoluted, and it's kind of ancient and outdated, and I wish we didn't do it, and I hate math, and it makes my my Novembers kind of a living hell. But that is how you do the CIC playoff formula. But that's it, Pete. Pete still hasn't learned how to do it. It's just really kind of tough. But so let's start with the bottom up.
Why would I try to learn it? I get to see it in this cool new facelift the CIAC put together.
Oh, yeah. That's caused a lot of headaches right now, but hopefully it seems like they're getting it together. I don't know why you put this out in the middle of the season, CIC. You should have been like, if we can't get this done by the start of the season, forget it. But right now, there are a lot of mistakes happening on the CIAC schedule. I just hope, I'm giving them time here. Just hope everything is on the level. Because, I was looking at records, and the records were all wrong last few weeks. It's because they were moving over to this new system. So we'll see how it works. But, all right, Pete. So let's start with the bottom up and just do a quick class-by-class look, and let's start with Class S. Here it is, the top teams, Pete: Bloomfield, Oxford, Ansonia, Stonington, 5-0, Notre Dame-Fairfield, 5-0. And then it goes Cromwell, Portland, 3-1, North Branford, 3-1, Griswold, Weir, they're holding down the 8th spot at 4-1. Woodland, Stafford, Morgan, Capital Prep in there, all 3-2, and then you have Seymour 2 and 3. Not a bad class. I mean, this is always a tough class no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, those are some pretty good programs. Bloomfield, Ansonia, Cromwell, Portland, Notre Dame-Fairfield, like those 4 teams right there stand out as like, that'd be a really fun Final Four if they could all get there. Obviously, Stonington has put together a great start. 5-0. I think for the first time since, I think it might be 2002. So that's great for the Bears to get there. North Branford is good. Griswold Wheeler can throw the ball. I actually saw them in a scrimmage earlier this year. I don't know if Woodland's going to be able to get there with the rest of their schedule. Stafford, it's got Granby and Rockville on their schedule, so they're going to have to win maybe one of those to kind of get enough points. But I think this is an exciting class overall.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the top 8 is going to be a lot of those teams. I don't see a lot of wiggle room. Maybe a Woodland, like you said, but that's going to be tough. Seymour, Waterbury Career, probably not. So you're looking at, again, this is the thing I hate about it. We have 6 playoff divisions, and this is the thing I hate about it. Now you get to midseason, you look at it, you're like, oh, all right, we're pretty much done here for a lot of these classes. We'll see. You'll see just how bad that gets. Moving on up to Class Double S, we have number 1 Wyndham, 3-1. Granby Canton, 4-1. Sheehan, 3-2. Coggins, 3-1. Barlow, 3-2. Tolland, 3-2. Law, 3-3 at 7. And Foreign at 3-3 at the 8th spot. If the playoffs began now, all those teams would be in. And then you have G&H, Watertown, West, and New Fairfield. Pete, this is a weak class.
I remember last year going into the Thanksgiving game, being like, wow, Law and Foreign are both going to the playoffs. Like, this is so exciting. They're both like, they were both undefeated. Yeah, two of the best quarterbacks in the state, and Nider, going at it. Now you're like, look, they're both 3-3 sitting in playoff spots. And you're like, all right, awesome. Let's see. Jonathan Law's 3 wins. 8 plus 5 is 13. Yeah. Are 2-13. Foreign at least has beaten 3 teams with at least 2 wins. So they're 6-10. So at least Foreign's like somewhat competing. I don't know. It's weird. Give me if Sheehan gets in, give me Sheehan.
Yeah. Right now, Sheehan and Granby Canton look like the two best ones here.
I think Barlow's going to be fine. I think that triple option is really hard to plan for when you don't have a week to prepare for it. So I think it's a little harder. But I think those 3 teams are the 3 that stand out to me. It's great. Wyndham's up here. They graduated so much from last year. So they're in this for now. But Waterford, Stonington, New London, New Fairfield, Montville down the stretch. Who knows?
Yeah, this class could go any which way, and you're going to see some bad records coming out of Double S. Thanks, CIAC. Let's move on to M. Class M is this is really odd for a lot of the same reasons why it was odd last year. First of all, Notre Dame, West Haven. All right, thank God, not in it. But you know who is? St. Joseph. Just when you thought you were out of the woods, Class M, you got St. Joseph in there, and that doesn't even begin to start. St. Joseph, and then you also have Daniel Hand Tigers, 5-1. Their only losses to Bunnell, and since then they haven't allowed a point in like 3 weeks in SEC Tier 2. Against all you have Rockville, which is a good team. Are they hands level? Northwest United, are they hands level? Holy Cross, we'll see what they do against Ansonia this week, but did not look great against Naugatuck. Yeah, then you have Hand, SMSA, good team. Are they at hands level? Berlin, maybe. All right, now ATI, Brookfield at 9. St. Joseph and Hand P, if they don't come out and go to the state championship, if they don't end up on the wrong side, on the different side of the bracket, we got a huge problem here in Class M.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Class M teams are looking at St. Joe's schedule being like, well, they can lose to Newtown. They can lose to Greenwich. They can lose to Staples. They can lose to Trumbull and go 4-6. They might still have enough points to get in. But theoretically, they could very easily go 3-6 or 5-5, and they'll probably still get in. This class is a gosh darn disaster.
It's a dumpster
fire. You got what, 1, 2 Pequots, 2 CTCs, an NVL, an SCC, and an FCIAC. I mean, look, hand size that's a Madison thing, but I mean, this is not the same Daniel Hand that won 2 L titles in 17 and 18.
This class is one of these things is not like the other. Actually, 2 of these things are not like the other. And there it is, St. Joe in Hand right now. Holy Cross, maybe you guys show up. Rockville, maybe. Prove me wrong, guys. I'm not going to make a brash decision. I already called Hand out. I already said Hand was winning the state championship in the preseason, so I'll just stick there. They're going to the playoffs, so there's no mystery. Thanks. Again.
Yeah, This is
what's the problem with this. There's no mystery.
The least that Hand can do, or the best thing Hand can do for the rest of the teams in this division, win out, hopefully get the number 1 seed. So maybe you get St. Joe's in the first round. So then all the other teams. Yeah. So then at least the other 6 teams are like, all right, at least we don't have to face one of them in the first round. But then 2 of them will get 2 tech schools. So who?
Moving on up to Double M now. The problem, again, as bad as some of these divisions are, then you get some really ridiculous ones. Like, it's almost too ridiculous. Class Double M is one of them. Let's look at this. Number 1, Cheshire, 6-0, getting first place votes of the poll. Number 2, Wilton, was undefeated, gave Staples a nice run. Staples is double out. Number 3 is Masuk, which is Masuk. That's a team I picked to go to the state championship game and win it, actually. I think I picked them to win. Quarterback situation is a little rough, but they're still very good. They beat up on all their SWC teams. Number 4 is North Haven, which is making a real play for a top 10 spot. Number 5 is Pomperaugh, which has been playing better. Guilford, which has a bad schedule, and they just lost 2 weeks ago to Hill House. So TBA on them, but they still got good players at Guilford. Windsor, who's got ridiculous players at number 7, and they're not making it. I mean, you look at their schedule. Platt is sitting there at number 8. Jason and his guys, been doing well so far. They don't have a very ridiculous schedule. Then you have number 9 Xavier, which in Tier 2, just like Han, they have a lot of winnable games left on their schedule. But maybe a lot of these teams are going to look at that and hopefully Prep and Shelton take care of them. And then number 10 is Fitch. All these teams, they have 12 teams that are they have 1 loss or less in this division. And then one of those is Wilcox Tech, which I don't even think they count.
The only good thing is we're going to see a lot of these teams cross over at some point. Cheshire's got North Haven, Massachusetts got Pomperog, Windsor's got Enfield 4-0, Manchester 3-1, Berlin 4-1, Bloomfield 4-0. Platt's got Bristol Eastern in Double M. So we're seeing some crossover with these teams and opponents. And then you have Xavier, who plays 1 Double S school and all L's and double L's. So, because that makes sense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. As you can see, if you're new to the program, as you can see, this makes 0 sense. It's just completely zigs and zags, and everything's just. It's just you're dealing with a 50-year-old playoff system when things were a lot simpler. We had a lot more leagues. You had to match them up, and then now we have this thing where they throw the alliance in, which is supposed to make it harder or easier or whatever for teams to get in. Strength of schedule and all that stuff. It's supposed to force teams to start playing the alliance. I don't know what they're doing. There's a better way to. There's got to be a better way to do it. But anyway, that's a ridiculous division. You win that on that one, yeah, you've definitely earned it. Let's move up. L. L is just as good here. Maybe not just as good, but not bad. Number 1, Newtown. Number 2, Naugatuck. Enfield's been playing well so far. Granted, they haven't played very many good teams, but they did beat East Hartford. New Canaan, obviously, always there. Always contends for a state championship. They won last year with a team that probably had no business winning. South Windsor's at 5. Darien is at 6. New Milford's at 7. Hall 8. And Maloney sitting just below them at number 9, followed by Ludlow. Shelton, with 2 losses, playing SEC Tier 1 in the 11th spot. Killingly at 3-2. This one is ridiculous as well, but for probably worse reasons.
Maloney, the number 3 team in the poll, is sitting outside of the playoffs right now because a high school kid kicked a 43-yarder with no time left. A kicker who actually got hurt on that kick. Like, he put everything he has into it that he has not kicked since for Greenwich.
Is that right?
Yeah, he, tweaked his hamstring. So that's what it took for Maloney to not be in the playoffs at this moment at 4-1. But then we look in Double S, and Foreign has 3 losses, and they're going to the playoffs right now. What a joke. What a disaster.
You want to see a disaster?
Pathetic disaster.
You want to see a disaster? Let's go to double. Let's go to Double L. Probably the worst of the bunch. Number 1, Granite. Well, number 1 is West Haven. Number 1 in the poll. Number 2 in the poll. And number 1 in the rankings. Number 2 is Greenwich, the number 1 team in the poll. Then you have Staples, which plays Greenwich on Thanksgiving. Always tough. And then after that, you have number 4 Manchester, which is their biggest win was 3-2 McMahon. Granted, they are 3-1. Then Southington, which has lost twice to Staples and Hall, by the way. And then you fall right off a cliff. Trumbull 3-2. I mean, we've seen Trumbull. Trumbull lost to Hamden in overtime, and then they also lost to Newtown on a rally. They've only beaten Danbury, Richfield, and Ward. Trumbull 3-2. It's a 6th spot. Then Hamden, which just got its clocks cleaned by Cheshire, and also Ludlow a few weeks ago, hung around versus West Haven, but still lost by a few touchdowns. Hamden at the 7th spot, 3-3. Then New Britain 3-2, Brian McMahon 3-2, Stanford 3-2, and Class Double LP is an utter disaster area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, and the top 3 teams I'm in on. Problem is, Greenwich and Staples play each other, so one of them will probably lose a home game because of that. I think Southington's better than.
I don't know. If that's their only loss.
Well, it would be Greenwich's only loss. Staples already has a loss.
That won't be enough for Greenwich. That won't be enough for Greenwich to knock them out of a home game. But
Yeah.
it might depending. Well, if you look at this, Hampden 3-3. Look, if that's going to be the standard at the lower parts, then Staples ain't losing a home game. If they lose, they might lose somebody else. They do play like St. Joe, right? They do play Trumbull, which but
it's
it's
so bad.
Do we even need quarterfinals here?
No, what we should have, we should expand. We should do 16 teams.
Yeah. This was why, again, and the CIC doesn't care because
but they do listen to the show. I mean, they don't listen to us.
They don't care about this though. Everybody, the coaches who are advocating for this, and not all of them are on board with it because it did get a little ridiculous with the old system. There were always teams that are going to be left out, but the problem was those teams didn't play good schedules most of the time. That's why they get left out. The schedules is what's the problem. We don't play balanced schedules. We don't even try to have equitable schedules. Some teams have ridiculous schedules. They get knocked out. Like Southern's got 3-2 now. Southern's going to make it, but let's say they lost another game in there. Now it's like, well, maybe
they might lose another game in there. They might lose 1 or 2 games.
But there's so many. You get so many mulligans. It's to the point where the regular season. Right now, we're at week 6, 7. Right, we got another half a season to go. You can look at this and say, well, they're going in. They're not. You look at the rest of their schedules. There's no way. Or the teams below them. There's no way they're catching them. So that is why this playoff system has taken almost all of the intrigue out of the second half of the season. It's all about the fun about the last playoff system was you didn't know who the last 6 or maybe even 7 or sometimes 6-5 teams were going to get in until like the last week of the season. Now it's like you look at it in week 5 or 6 and you're like, well, this is wrapped up. There are a few playoff divisions last year that were wrapped up. In fact, I picked the team to win the state championship. I put Notre Dame. I said they're going to win. They're winning it all. There's no way, and they hadn't even qualified yet. But you just look.
They hadn't even played a game.
Yeah, that is why this is terrible. You guys have given mulligans to everybody, where the regular season just doesn't matter anymore. It's all about just positioning, and that is the shame of it. The regular season is supposed to be like football. You play the 1 week, and then all right, it's a lot of intrigue. And if you lose a game, maybe you lose your playoff. I mean, chances was 2 losses. Should 2 losses be enough to knock you out? No, probably not. But after that, you start to know which teams are good and which teams aren't. And we want the best teams to be playing. We don't want just to put people in just to put people in. It's just a mess.
No, if you want to do that, you go and play basketball.
Yeah. Well, they want it to be a basketball playoffs. And the basketball playoffs while we're here are terrible too. 5 divisions.
Hey, if they want to play the football championships at Mohegan Sun, I might be down for that.
Oh God. It's just so depressing. It's just so the 3 playoff divisions, it's usually half and half. The 3 playoff divisions that I think are good, S, double M, and L. I think double M is right now, obviously, clearly. Could the number 1 team come out of that one? Could Cheshire somehow sneak in? I don't know.
They would have to beat Cheshire. They'd have to beat West Haven. They'd have to beat Southington. Realistically, Cheshire has to go undefeated here, and West Haven or Southington has to win double L for Cheshire to be the number 1 team,
or a team to come out of double M as the state champ. I don't know. I mean, as the number 1, I don't know.
I mean, but you look at Chester's schedule, right? They have North Haven in double M, they have West Haven in double L, and they have Southington. So if they go 10-0 and then win double M, and someone other than Greenwich wins double L, I could see Cheshire being number 1 at 13-0 and winning double L with wins over double L West Haven and double L Southington.
Right. Just because you're in double L does not mean you should be number 1 this year, especially this year, because you're going to get 2, if that, games.
No, but we were singing the complete opposite tune last year. So.
No, yeah. Well, last year it still wasn't great. Really look at it.
No, but Greenwich was number 1 with 2 losses. The quarterfinal round was chaotic last year because what it showed, everyone was like, wow, what a bunch of that was such a great game. You guys are wrong. And it's like, no, what it proved was that the scheduling system is a disaster in this state. The conferences mean nothing. And some teams, they're very good this year, and they belong in, I think they're in tier 2 of the CCC. But last year, Berlin played no one. They didn't play anyone, and they were 10-0, and they played Brantford, who played them really well in the first round of the playoffs in the first half. Like, what it showed us was that Cheshire was better than their record of 6-4 because they played a much better schedule than what the FCIAC offered St. Joe's last year. That's what it showed us. The schedules are the problem.
Schedules are the problem. Yeah.
That's what it showed us last year. Not that there are 48 good teams in this state, because trust me, if you had to fill out a ballot every week of 15 good teams, you'd have a really hard time figuring it out too.
I don't see what's wrong with playing a 10-game schedule and the best teams get in. That's the way we're supposed to go. Best teams. The best teams are the ones with the less losses. We don't need to get 500 teams in. That's not how this works. Or it shouldn't work that way. But romper room, my friends. Romper room. All right. So mind, let's go to our last segment of the podcast. Last year we did who are our top disappointments and our top surprises. This year we're going to do something a little different. Pete, why don't you explain it to me?
All right, so we're going to do, we did this in the baseball podcast last couple of years. We did a fantasy draft. So we're also going to do a fantasy draft here. Now, it's going to be a little different. Baseball, we went specifically by positions. There's only 10 positions in baseball. This is a little smaller, but we kind of grew it a little bit. So each team is going to select one quarterback. Each team is going to select 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, an athlete, okay, just like an overall athlete. You're going to take a team's offensive line and a team defense. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 picks each. We're going to do a snake draft. Sean is going to go first. He is going to tell me who he is selecting and what position that player will be, right? You're going to take a player, if they're a running back or wide receiver, if they do both. If they're an athlete, tell me they're an athlete. They will go in your athlete position. You will be done selecting your athlete at that point.
All right. Am I before we go on, am I picking for like max points here?
You're picking who you want on your team. Who do you want on your team the rest of the way?
Just a straight, who is my best player the rest of the way?
Yeah, but like it's going to get, maybe I take your quarterback, or do you want your quarterback this early? Do you want your running back this early? Are you going to be willing? I get 2 picks in a row after, right? You get the first pick, I get second, third, then you get fourth, fifth. Snake draft.
All right.
You're up.
So, all right. I'm on the clock, huh?
You are on the clock.
Oh, man. With the first pick in the... with the first pick in the GameTimeCT Midseason Report draft, Sean Patrick Bowley selects Matt Jeffrey, Cheshire.
That is a good selection. Matt Jeffrey off the board.
Going with Matt Jeffrey. So I didn't get the same one, but Matt Jeffrey's... I mean, he's been out, but he's probably the best player in the state.
The second overall pick in the Meat Grinder Fantasy Draft, and the first pick for Pete, I am taking quarterback Caleb Smith from Staples. I don't think there is a quarterback in the state so far yet that is as dangerous as he is with his arm and his legs. So I'm going to go with Caleb Smith with my first overall pick. And with my second overall pick, because I get to, with my second pick, the third overall pick, because I get back-to-back picks, I am also going with an athlete, and I'm going with Dante Kelly from Maloney. He is the most dangerous player in the state with the ball in his hands. He's a lockdown corner. He's a great receiver. And I get him with special teams points. Your boy, raking it in. Sean, you are up. You got back-to-back picks.
We're not doing this by points. I thought you just said we're not doing this by points. Now we're doing it by points?
Yes, we're fictionally pretending, yes.
All right. I'm going to, with my second pick, I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with the pinball machine himself, Davian Kerr of Bloomfield. Davey E with an E. Davian Kerr was first team All-State for us last year. and just, lights up the scoreboard as a receiver. I'm picking him obviously as a receiver. But obviously, clearly one of our best guys. And my third pick is going to be Nick Conlon, quarterback, West Haven High School. I want to talk about running with arm, doing damage with arm and feet. That kid can fly. I'm going with Nick Conlon, West Haven.
Wow. See, Nick was my second quarterback on the board if you had gone with Caleb to start. So, all right. So now it's my turn. I get back-to-back picks. I think I'm going to shore up my running game here. And first running back off the board, we talked about him earlier in the show. He is money with the ball in his hands near the goal line. And with a quarterback like Caleb Smith and a receiver, an athlete like Kelly, I'm going to be near the goal line a lot. I'm going with Jason Champagne from Masuk. 13 rushing touchdowns so far this year, and he can do it catching the ball. Jason is the total package. I'm going to take my first wide receiver now with my second pick. I'm going to hold off on this guy. I don't know if he's going to make it back to me, so I'm going to take this guy instead, and I'm going with Armani Reed from West Haven. Electric with a capital E. Armani's awesome and great kid, just an absolute playmaker. You want the ball in his hands with the game on the line. Sean, you're up.
Running back right now, I'm going to go with Rowan Johnston of Trumbull. Listen, he's got a lot. He's got 13 touchdowns. And he's already over, but more than that, right? Jeez, I don't even think they updated their stats yet, right?
Yeah, he's had 1,000 yards now. Had 4 touchdowns last
rushing.
week. Yeah,
4 touchdowns last week. Very good player. That's a good running back spot for me. With my fifth pick, at receiver. I am going to go with Jack Nye of Morgan Saybrook Westbrook. Now, you won't know it, but last week he had a ridiculous game in beating up Concord. We didn't mention him in the shout-outs, but he had a ridiculous game. He basically threw for a touchdown. He passed. Now, he doesn't have the receiver. I'm sorry, he doesn't have he's a freshman at quarterback, but, man, he is a good-looking player, and I'd be glad to have him as my second option. He's just steady. He's like, what? Well, he's like about 6'3", 6'4". What is he anyway? Let's take a look. He is, 6'3", 190. He's a good-looking player, man. Jack Nye, receiver. Pete.
I am stunned. I mean, I'm not surprised you took Jack Nye. Jack Nye is an excellent pick, but I am stunned that you didn't pick this player as your second wide receiver. I'm surprised you didn't take him as your first wide receiver. I'm going to take him as my second wide receiver, and that is Rayshard Williams from Southington. 711 receiving yards in 5 games. He has 30 catches.
I already have my burner.
23 yards a catch. 23 yards a catch. This kid is amazing. Oh, he was the one. I was stuck between him and Armani, but I had to go with Armani. Armani's my guy.
It was between him and Nye. I went with Nye.
That's not a bad pick.
I already have my burner.
I know. No, it's fair.
He catches a lot of TDs.
And I'm going to go with my second pick. We both have a running back left. And but we both have to take our O-line and our team defense. And I'm going to go off the board here. I'm not going to take my running back. I'm going to take my team defense. Do you know what team defense I'm taking, Sean?
What's that?
I am taking the Cheshire Rams defense. The Rams have allowed 30 points in 6 games. They have had 3 straight shutouts. Evan Russo has 11.5 sacks through 6 games. Jack Brewster has over 70 tackles already. The Rams defense is flying high, playing in the most competitive conference in the state. I'm going with the Rams as my team defense. Sean, you're up. You got 2 in a row. You need a running back, an offensive lineman, or a team defense. You get back-to-back picks.
For my offensive line, Pete, I am going with North Haven. The North Haven Nighthawks. What an absolute just crushing job they've done so far in their games. And if you want to look at it, they have, since they had the forfeit, but since then they have a that's all they do is run the ball, right? They do play action passes in there, little razzle dazzle. But North Haven right now has They've amassed in four games, 173 points, just absolutely murders. Ask Fitch how the Nighthawks with the Nighthawks did to him. You can't go wrong with a team that you got to have great linemen to play. North Haven is my pick for O-line. I'm sure they'll be thrilled. For team defense, I am going with the New Canaan Rams. Alex Benevento and who's our guy up front, man? He's great.
Miles Chisholm.
Oh, so good. Listen, they did not skip a beat on defensively. Chris Silvestri, the guys here. Who else right now? 45 points allowed already, and they did lose the one game to Shelton. But what the heck? I'm going to go with the Rams so far. I think they have now gotten themselves into a nice groove. New Canaan Rams as my defense, Pete.
All right, I got two more. I get to round out my team with a running back and an offensive lineman. I'm going to go with O-line first. I don't have any representative from this team, so I'm going to go with the Greenwich offensive line, led by first-team All-State selection last year, Peter Bomvalakis, my guy, leading the way. So I'm taking the Cardinal offensive line, one of the most sound units in the state. Year over year, obviously Anthony Morello, the head coach, takes vested interest in his offensive line for obvious reasons. And then with my last pick to fill out my running back room, I'm trying to spread my love a little bit here. I'm going to go running back. I'm going to go with Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Antoine Davis from Notre Dame-Fairfield, the Lancers. This guy has done nothing but run the ball well. Rushed for 1,000 yards last year, rushed for 300 yards in the season opener, paired up with Rajon Petway, who also rushed for close to 300 yards in that game. Right? Petway is now out. He was in a sling last game. They don't know really how long he's going to be out. It's going to be Davis's time for the second half of the season. He rushed for 160 yards against Brookfield. He looked great, had a great touchdown. I'm going with Davis to fill out my room. Sean, you are up with the final pick. You get to fill out your running back room.
This is a tough one for me. The reason why, there's so many good running backs, and you can't go wrong with anybody at this spot. Really go to Makai Ingram from Ansonia. Brady Rosacci from Sheehan. Good players all. I mean, there's running backs from Man. Right? There's lots of guys. Camp Kemp, obviously from Hampton. But I think, Soren Reef, obviously, first team All-Stater for us as a defensive player, but we made it for offense. But I think I'm going with your guy, Pete, for my last running back spot, and that would be Amir Knighton from Rockville, the Rockville Rams. Amir Knighton just lighting it up the scoreboard. I got to see him 4 touchdowns over 5 weeks against Granby. Lit up Primal Portland. I mean, you see half those touchdowns. Rowan Johnson, by the way, him in tandem with Rowan Johnson, that's not bad. I mean, you see what Rowan Johnson did. He scored from like 80 billion yards out against Richfield. Ridiculous. I love that. It's a little double action. They both got some speed. Just a great pick. He's had a great second half. He's had a great first half of the season, Amir Knighton. So that's my running back right there.
Oh, that is my guy, Amir Knighton, who's on my list. He was on my list. I
didn't even have. I don't have a list.
I had a big board.
Pete clearly did a lot of homework. I didn't. All right, what are we doing?
I've been pushing this on you for like a week. I had a big board.
And I'm sure you did. Yeah. Well, now what? Now I gotta. Yeah.
No, we're gonna clip this together. We're gonna put it online. Ask people to vote which team they think would be better, Team SPB or Team Pete.
Oh, you're already killing me. They're already gonna kill me with Dante Kelly. I love Jeffrey though. Let's go, Matt. Let's go. Let's get our guys going here.
No, Matt is a great first overall pick. I think I had him and Kelly as my 1-2s on my board. But once you let Caleb Smith fall to me, everyone knows quarterback's the most important position in fantasy.
You love Caleb Smith.
Plus, I mean, this is a made-up league where it's 6-point passing and 6-point rushing, so I'm just getting double points from Caleb Smith in this fictional league that doesn't exist.
Yeah, hey, I love Michael. Colin.
Oh, Colin's good.
Come on, just as good. All right, vote for Team Pete SPB. we're gonna get out of here, man. This has been a long podcast, so get out of here. For Paguaga, I'm Sean Patrick Bowley. Team SPB. This has been the Meat Grinder and team on a Game Time.
Love you all.